right. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another chat here with Coach Morgan. And happy Remembrance Day today. I hope that you're able to take the time today to remember those that have sacrificed for us today and throughout all the previous years and continue to sacrifice. So take the time today to definitely do some reflection that way. I know I wanted to come on here and just do a brief chat around a concept that has come up over the last couple of days quite often with some clients that I've been working with, as well as just in conversation with a few other clients and members as well. And that concept is tension over position. And if you have spent any length of time with me in any capacity, you have probably heard me make this statement or talk about this in a certain way. And so what I want to discuss with tension over position and why I'm so passionate about this concept of tension over position is because for a lot of people, especially when they're coming in to, start the training routine, whatnot, one of the main factors, one of the main things that always comes up is that they want to feel strong. They want to get strong. And that's one of the primary things that people are looking to do with their health and their wellness is that to get strong, physically, mentally, emotionally, like feel strong in their bodies, feel strong in their mind. And I was put onto this concept of tension over position. I was through someone in the industry that I've followed for years now. And it really changed the game for me years ago when I first heard this statement and started to dig into the concept a little bit more and really start to play with it and understand it. And so on a simple level, this tension over position concept is one where when we are training, when we are moving, we want to keep focus and intention on holding the right tension in the right areas for that movement. Now, you often hear when we do movement patterns, you hear the cues of like squeeze your butt and like, flex, like, squeeze down into your lats or like, shrug your shoulders, whatever the thing may be. We hear those statements, we hear those cues, but I want to go a little deeper with it. I want you to start to think about this on a little bit deeper level as far as like really starting to identify and find the right tension. Because what I see often happen is there's a lot of just doing the patterns. There's a lot of doing the position and making sure that, yes, it looks nice, it looks clean, it looks effective, right? However, we're not necessarily really digging into the actual tension that we're trying to find in that position. And so an example of this was yesterday. I was working with one of our tier 2 clients, and she, as part of her programming, had some bent over dumbbell rows. And it's one of the most common movements that I see this sort of tension over position issue come up for people, because with a dumbbell row, bent over position, oftentimes people just kind of crank these out, right? More weight, just crank out the reps. And that is a prime example of position over effective tension, where yes, they're doing the pattern, they're doing the position of like a row. However, they're not really tapping into the right tension that we need to be having to make that movement really effective, to really build strength, which is what we're trying to do with that movement pattern. So we really slowed it down yesterday, using this example of the client that I worked with yesterday. And I had her really focusing on identifying, holding and pulling tension into her lats, into her back, through her scapula. And then at the top of that pull, really squeezing the hell out of that muscle, right? Like really finding it. And it was a lighter load than what she typically did for a dumbbell row, but she was blasted from it. It was one of the hardest things she did in her training session. And it was surprising to her just because it was like, well, I usually can like lift more than this, but this is so freaking hard doing it this way. And I'm like, it is, right? It is hard doing it this way. And that's the point. We're trying to build strength. We're trying to build tension in those tissues to develop them and recruit more. And so that leads me to a conversation that I had today with a couple of members, which was that idea of recruitment. We were talking about strength building and this guy that's doing a strength program, and he's incorporating a lot of pauses into his strength program, pauses in position. So, for example, sit down in the bottom of a squat and hold tension in the bottom of that squat before you stand up. And so we were talking about why that's beneficial. Like, what does holding tension in the bottom of a squat, what does that pause do? And at the end of the day, it's starting to find that effective tension in that position, right? Where that individual is then starting to recruit more and more muscle fibers as they're holding tension in that position. Which, if we're wanting to get strong, if we're really wanting to get strong, we want more muscle fiber recruitment. We want to really tap into that tissue and that muscle. And so that is a piece that really is so big when it comes to movement and training, right? Like, it's why it's something that I'm just so big on, and you'll hear me just scream it on the hilltops as far as tension over position when you guys are training, right? I want you to look at the movement patterns that you have in your training regimen and the things that you are doing, and consider, are you truly finding the right tension and the right muscles for that movement pattern, right? When you're pulling yourself down into a squat, right? You're doing a back squat. When you're pulling yourself down into a squat, are you feeling like you're pulling tension into your glutes? Are you feeling like you're squeezing tension through your quads and through your hamstrings, right? When you're doing, say, a shoulder press, right? A barbell shoulder press, are you flexing the crap out of, creating tension through midline up through the upper chain and upper arms, right? And actually really flexing into your delts and even into your lats and that whole shoulder girdle. Are you finding that effective tension in that position? Because if you want to see really powerful strength gains, that is one of the biggest ways to do it, right? Similar with like a pull-up. Everyone wants to get a pull-up. Everyone is one of the biggest things that people want to accomplish is a pull-up. And what happens often is that we get too focused on the position, right? Just pull, 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 get my chin up and over, pull. And there's no actual effective tension happening in that position. We're not actually finding our lats and really squeezing into our lats, into our back, and really being able to hold that tension over a specific range. I often tell people when they're doing, assisted pull-ups or pull-up variations that, like, I care less about the range at first, that you can do. I care more about the range that you can maintain tension under. Because if you're pulling and you can only pull to here and keep and hold that tension, and then after that you start to dump and lose tension, then I would rather you build up and pull to there, or regress to a movement pattern that you can pull and keep that tension through the full range, right? Because yes, we want full range of motion on things. Absolutely. I'm not going to deny that fact. But I want to see you holding tension versus just doing a position. Now, there are certain regards where we're looking for speed. We're looking for, quick movement. We're looking for, high volume kind of rep stuff where, you're just going to be kind of bounce. There's sort of a bounce in position, right? But that doesn't mean that you're not finding effective tension. That doesn't mean that you don't have tension in the right areas, right? A wall ball, for example, it's more of a rebound kind of bounce out of the bottom kind of position, right? So we're not squeezing and holding tension the same way that we do with like a barbell back squat. However, we still want to create the proper type of tension through that pattern, right? The proper tension like into the ball and create force through that ball to toss that ball up to the target. So again, tension over position with that. Okay, you seeing the trend here, the theme here, right? So I guess my main thing that I want to challenge you all with, the main thing that I want to kind of put out there for all of you guys is, in your training, really start to maybe slow things down, maybe kind of have a little bit of a tempo or pause to some things that you're doing right now. If you found that you've stagnated with some of your movement patterns, if you found that you're kind of struggling with some of your movement patterns, slow it down, tempo it out a little bit, and focus on flexing and finding tension over that position, Okay. Hold tension in that muscle, in those muscles that you're trying to really find it. Really tap into that. Okay. This goes deeper layer as far as that whole idea of like mind muscle connection that you might have heard people talk about. But being able to just really start to sink into that movement pattern and feel the tension, as much as it's going to suck and it's going to be hard. It's going to be harder than what you're typically used to, because you're like, I usually just pump these things out. I usually just like pump out my squat, right? That was my thing for a while. My squats, I used to just bounce out of the bottom of my squat. And where did I always struggle? I always struggled lifting heavy load, because at the bottom I would lose tension and just kind of bounce out of it, which wasn't conducive for me to actually get better. And it wasn't until I freaking learned how to hold tension and basically like find the most amount of tension right in that bottom of that squat and hold that, and then kind of no bounce, just touch a point and come right back up, that I started to see an improvement in my squat, my improvement in my strength of that, because I was able to actually find effective tension over just going into that position. I could do the position all day long. I could squat all day long. I had the pattern. I had the overall position of it, but I wasn't finding that effective tension, and it was holding me back from making the gains that I wanted to make. So in another chat, I'm going to go deeper on this into tension over position in other ways. But what I want you guys to do over this next little bit is consider the movement patterns that you are struggling with. Consider how you can find better tension in those movement patterns. What can you do to hold better tension in those movement patterns? Where can you squeeze more? If you're not sure about like, what muscles am I supposed to be squeezing, ask us, send me a message, be like, I'm struggling with this movement. What should I be thinking about? Okay. Ask a coach on site, wherever you are, right? Ask them like, what is the muscles that I'm trying to flex and squeeze here, right? And then take the time to find those muscles. Okay. One of the main things that I do when I start working with someone, specifically one-to-one, is do a cycle where we're finding our muscles, right? This is something that I appreciate about bodybuilding and the bodybuilding realm, is because they are very good at finding their muscles and connecting to the muscles in their body, because they need to flex them for their competitions, their shows. They need to be able to flex them and show them off, right? So I appreciate that, because it's like, that's what we need to be able to do better. We need to be able to flex those muscles, find those muscles, because if you're able to find those muscles and create effective tension in them, you're going to be able to express your fitness at another level, at a better level, right? You're going to be able to express your health at a better level, because you're not going to feel as broken, because you're recruiting better muscle. You have better muscle recruitment, right? Things are going to function better. I threw that in there, our tagline, but things are going to function better. And overall, you're going to feel better. You're going to improve strength in that position. You're going to improve output in that position. So again, consider the movements that you're struggling with. Are you actually finding tension in those movements effectively, finding tension in those muscles effectively, and being able to squeeze the hell out of it, feel that, contract it? If you're not, let's try to find that. If you're unsure of how to find that or what muscles to find, let me know. Reach out to us, reach out to one of our coaches, and they can help you find those muscles and find that tension over position. All right. That's it, you guys. Have a fantastic day. Remember, take a moment today to really reflect on all of those that have sacrificed for us to be able to do what we do today. I know I will, for being able to do this with all of you every single day. So love you all. Appreciate you all. Have a fantastic day. Love, love.